Guys, we're going to get started. If you can take a seat. All right. Last panel of the afternoon. So we have a great panel. So planes, trains, and automobiles. I'd like to invite myself up to speak, to moderate this panel, and I'd like to invite up Phil Easter, Ori Fruhauf, and Ricardo Aguilar. Welcome, guys. So we have an awesome panel. So Phil is from American Airlines, and he's the director of mobile apps. We have Ori he's here in two capacities in the end. He's here from Uprise Pose, which you can find up in the exhibit hall, but also because he is a veteran or current F-16 fighter pilot. And lastly, but not least, Ricardo Aguilar from Mercedes-Benz, who's a senior UX designer. I think we have some great perspectives here and talk about the future of transportation. How are wearables changing the future of transportation? And let's talk about it from an enterprise and a consumer perspective. Phil, do you want to kick us off?
Well, hey, thanks for having me. That's a full crowd out there. Look at that. So, hey, in the back. All right. So, so American is excited about the opportunity to improve the traveler's experience. Because every time we fly, right, we go home and we write mom and said that was the best flight, right? Because there's always opportunity for us to improve in travel. A lot of people don't realize there's over 200 moving parts behind the scenes to get you from A to B. And a lot of times those things slow down or fail. So wearables is a great opportunity for us to give customers better data, more data, and also to empower employees with better data and faster data. So we see a great connection because believe it or not, employees show up and they want to do a great job. A lot of times just the systems slow down or they fail. And so we see wearables as really bridging that gap and making customers happy.
From an employee perspective, employees who will work on the planes need to engage Ori over here. What kind of technologies are you seeing that are being used?
Is it to me?
From American, yeah. American's perspective.
So there's opportunities for employees with baggage handling. Currently today we scan bags. It's a slow process, scan, move a bag. And so in the future, an employee can just look at the bag and scan it. Maintenance, huge opportunity, heads-up display, fixing the plane faster so you can get back into service so you don't miss your next flight. Onboard crew, huge opportunities there. Gate agents, because right now a lot of times gate agents are looking down. We want employees to look at you, engage with you. So I know there's a big concern about glass and how that's being perceived with consumers, but I think once consumers see them in a secure airport environment and they know that they're using it to give you better service, I think they're going to be more open to it.
Ori, as a pilot, how long have you been using wearables?
Yeah, well, I've been using wearables from basically day one. It's about 12 years now. You can say I've been using Google Glass for the past 10 years with our heads-up display and everything. From my experience, so the wearables are just making the ride a better ride. So if it's on a plane, a train, a car, or whatever, and when I go in my F-16 cockpit, I'm giving myself entirely to computers, wearables, and stuff like that. So again, if you put that stuff in cars and commercial planes, it's a big deal.
Now you also come in the capacity of a company that, you want to explain your company that you're with?
Yeah, so we're doing Upright. It's a wearable device. I have one on me right now. Just actually tracks your posture and
Where did you pull that out of?
Oh, my back. Good
Sorry,
question.
it's last one of the day, right?
So actually, just to correct your posture and help you prevent back pains. So for example, if I see wearables in the transport business in two big dimensions. So one I mentioned before is enhancing the ride, right? And just like Phil explained. But one is also to prepare you or better prepare you for the ride. So if, for example, you wanna, it's a long ride, you're gonna sit for 8-9 hours. So and before you're gonna do some exercise and you're gonna correct your posture. So you will have less back pains when you're on the plane or on the car, stuff like that. So again, this is what we do.
So Ricardo, when you think about user experience at Mercedes, do you take into account people with a lot of experience as professional drivers and how they interpret what you're designing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to add on to what Boris was saying, right now there's multiple scenarios where wearables come to be really, really useful. One, I call it remote control. Obviously, you can control so many things in a car via your smartwatch, for example, music, you know. And the second one, it's what I call the pre-driving and post-driving. So you can do a lot with your wearables before driving a car. Then you stop it while driving because we want you to focus on the road. And then after driving a car, you know.
What are some examples of wearables that are being used in the car in conjunction?
Yeah, so last year Mercedes-Benz was the first automotive company to announce door-to-door navigation using Google Glass, which is a great tool for you to kind of navigate to a car, for example, drive using the car navigation, and then continue that navigation in your glass. So it's like seamless from door to door. That's an example. Yeah.
So Phil, recently I heard that you paired with Wearable World on a developer challenge.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
So we're not sure what's going to happen with wearables, right? We just want to make sure we get it right. I think we collectively messed up mobile. We just copied .com and put it on a mobile device. Yeah, I know. But that was before my time, right? So we want to jump into wearables, but we want to partner with developers and figure out what can we do, right? What can we do to create an ecosystem of apps that help travelers? My application is specialized in the day of travel, 24 hours, check-in, boarding pass, updates. That's what I want to own. But there's opportunities at home. Let's see, what if you're taking a shower and your watch says, hey, the flight had a scheduled modification, wasn't delayed. Scheduled modification. It's an hour late. You got extra time. There's times in your journey when there's glanceable moments, and understanding the moment with wearables is key. So throughout your journey, if you get these little snippets of data that help your journey, I think you're going to be happier, and ultimately be happier with me as an airline. So we see that at home, in the car, when you get to the airport, finding a parking spot, when you're at the terminal, you walk up to a display, it recognizes you, gives you information. In flight is a huge opportunity. So yeah, we're going to do this hackathon on Friday just to come up with some ideas about what we can do to make customers happy.
So if anyone ever has flight difficulties and wants to participate,
that means no one here in this room, right?
Nobody.
Right.
So how do you think? So the notion of points of contact, with safety and automotive, I'm sure you deal with this a lot. When can people and when should they be engaging in wearables? What do you think about that from a design perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's one of the hardest things to deal with in automotive right now. I mean, obviously anyone can design an app, put it on a phone. If it crashes, fine, not a big deal. It's just update it, debug, that's it. In a car, it's not the same thing. You really don't want devices to crash. You really don't want software to be buggy. So there's a huge, huge component to iterate, debug, and design it better and better. Totally like failure-proof. It can't fail.
So on that, then there's a wearables and we have quick product life cycles and the turnover in software. But building a plane, I think my flight on the way over had a modem cable under the seat. So how do you deal with that from the perspective of emerging technologies?
Well, I think we're starting to understand that the consumer drives it, right? Apple messed it up for us because old airlines love waterfall and predictability and roadmaps that had a graph, for 3 years. Now we're forced to be agile and be adaptive, so we have to get products out there faster and be very nimble. And we changed our whole internal shop from waterfall to agile. It was very difficult, but we had CIO sponsorship and we made it. It worked out. So if you're going mobile and specifically the wearable, you got to be an agile shop. And you have to just try things, be prepared to fail, but fail fast, and listen to your customers. We now engage with our customers in a beta program where we get their feedback before apps go out, and we're going to do the same thing with wearables. I think there's a great opportunity again for wearables, but we want to make sure we get it right. If we do something wrong, I think customers aren't going to be leery about the next app. So we're excited about it.
Just to add to this point, and you talked before about the safety and the wearables integrating with the driving or the transportation. So again, from my experience, it took me 6 months to integrate my Google Glass to me flying a plane. 6 months. So I think it's, again, I don't compare this to driving a car, but same time you have to it's something we need to figure out. I mean, how you can integrate the wearable stuff inside our day-to-day activities such as driving, and I'm really not sure that everybody can do it. I mean,
Have the pilots integrated Google Glass?
I mean, again, it's you start by doing it only like for a short amount of time. So, if, for example, I'm going to drive my car and I'm going to do it with my Google Glass, so I'm going to do it for the only first 10 minutes, and again I'm going to put it away. I'm going to continue driving. Next time I can put it maybe for 15, 20 minutes, and then you get used to it. So something that, again, we need to figure out how we can combine it with the daily activities.
So we are on enterprise tracks. From an enterprise perspective, do you think that transportation, automotive, airlines are leading the way in anything with wearables, with technology that other industries can learn from?
Yeah, I think we are, because airlines in our sector, we're always on the edge with technology. American's been mobile for over 10 years in the enterprise. You just don't see a lot of it. But I think because we have to constantly look at the edge and figure out how we can provide the best customer service, faster data, wearables is going to be a huge opportunity to just cut that down. So we're constantly looking at how do we improve. And I think as wearables, we're all on a mobile, we're mobile first or mobile only now. And wearables is going to just extend that. So I think it's one of these sectors, if you're looking at as a business, who do I go, court? I think you'd be calling me and say, hey, how can we help you out in the travel space?
So speaking of best in class, Mercedes-Benz, high standard that you have to live up to. So what are your consumers? What are they asking for with technology and cars?
A lot. Well, right now, a lot of the requests are for smart systems, right? So anything that can be predictive in a car will be really, really good for a consumer. On a wearable side, I mean, we don't build the wearables, but what we can build is the integration with the wearables, as long as it makes sense to produce that. As I mentioned before, I think there's a huge space for wearables for pre-driving and post-driving. There's a lot to do in that space, and that's where we're trying to prototype, design things that are useful for the consumer.
So what's an example of something you're currently working on that you can tell us, or that you shouldn't tell us?
I mean, most recently, I would say, well, Google Glass, as I mentioned, the integration with Nest. It's not a wearable, but it's an IoT, so it's a great piece of work, and also with Pebble. I mean, I'm wearing one right now. I can see how much gas I have in the tank, if the doors are locked or unlocked. Really, really simple things.
Oh, your doors are open.
They're closed. And yeah, again, I mean, we can use these as a remote controller, for example. I can easily skip a track via my watch instead of like reaching out to the dashboard.
So, Ori, how did you go from being a pilot to having a posture control device?
Well, actually, the combination of knowing wearables for a lot of years and understanding the importance of having a good posture while you're driving or actually in your everyday activity. So for me, it was the best combination. So I left my pilot position and I found this company, became business manager at Upright. Actually, all of my pilot friends, they wanted a device, and I promised them that version number 2 is going to be compatible for F-16 seats. So, because I'm having back pains from flying and everything, and just because my posture is a bad posture, right? So most of back pains are actually due to bad posture. So if you can combine those two things, you can prevent it and do a big step forward.
So you have a direct-to-consumer product that you're working with. Have you thought about taking an enterprise perspective and going to all the pilots at American Airlines, because you could sell it right here, right now?
Yeah, actually, we just started, and when a few months ago, we've been developing the product for about 2 years now, but we just started and having our Indiegogo campaign, so check it out and support us. But from there, the options are limitless. I mean, combining it with cars, airplanes, and you can take to the medical section with doctors, everything. So the options are in this.
So question for you, Ricardo.
Yeah.
You were at CES this year.
Yeah.
So there weren't many automotive companies there, is that correct?
Actually, there was. It was one of the biggest highlights of CES this year.
So can you explain?
Both Audi, BMW, Mercedes, a lot. Yeah,
So
a lot
what
of
was some highlights of CES from an automotive perspective?
I mean, mainly it was to showcase how much can be done these days in automotive. I mean, people forget about cars as having like tons of sensors, a lot more than any wearable, having a lot of space for computing power, which we do, and also connectivity, which is one of the biggest things to work on. Unfortunately, cars don't have the fastest connection yet, but they will soon have a fast connection for computing power to do all kinds of processing. So I guess CES wanted to tap into that and know more about what's coming out from amazing companies like BMW, Mercedes, and so on. Yeah.
So what advice can you give to Phil of how, from an automotive perspective, how to improve the airline?
I thought you were going to give me some grooming techniques.
Write it down.
I mean, from a consumer level, I guess the premium quality that you get out of a car like Mercedes-Benz is something to get inspired. You know, I mean, if airlines can provide that, obviously first class. But if they can provide that, I think it would be a great thing to have.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and we're investing heavily in our fleet. We have over 500 new aircraft. Every week, every 7 days, we get 2 new planes. So it's unheard of in the industry. So hopefully, I know you all fly American. You're all Advantage customers. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. So when you start flying us more, you're going to see brand new aircraft, entertainment throughout the aircraft, first class, business, and main cabin. So it used to be called coach. Now it's called main cabin. So it makes you feel better when you're back there because you're with everybody else. Main cabin. 110 outlet, you know, full fidelity screen. So
Silent modem.
yeah, well that's for the NSA, but so yeah, so we're heavily invested in high tech. Obviously, international Wi-Fi, that's phenomenal, and this new flight that we have from San Francisco to New York, that's the first plane with first class and business lie flat. For it's phenomenal, lie flat. Finally, Transcom. It was only international, so you can take a little nap. So anyway, so we're trying to beef up the fleet. We're investing in technology. We're all in a mobile. We're dipping our toe in mobile wearables. So fly us again if you took a break.
I think one thing to add to that is that a lot of companies forget about empathy when they design and they create services. And this is something that we're all trying to achieve and make it better, you know. Design things that people love and not just design for the sake of designing, you know. It's a waste of time and resources. So first of all, create empathy with the user and then design beautiful things that can be useful, you know.
So on that, you know, people are experts in specific things, and you know, Phil, I know you deal with 1,000 different areas from check-in to ticketing and baggage and planes, and or you come from a perspective of now with your device, one specific element that you bring that's great. Now, Phil, do you design using external experts and kind of open up the technology platform maybe to third parties?
We're dipping our toe in that one. So that's what these hackathons, we did one last year at South by, and this one is to partner more closely with third-party developers. Because, you know, I'm an old stodgy airline guy, you know. I still have a flip phone. So we don't have a lot of creativity. We're operational. We're talking about on time and performance and safety, which is what you enjoy, right? You want me to do that. So we partner as much. We've used external agencies for its design. So we're getting better at that. We want to have a thriving ecosystem that comes up with great ideas to help, you know, make our customers happy. I keep going back to making happy customers. So it's real simple. You make your customer happy, they keep coming back. And I think wearables is a great opportunity of those moments throughout the day when they connect to you and giving the customer what they want, when they want it, and understanding what is the right time to share data and when's the right time to be quiet. I think that's the art, when to be quiet. I learned that from my wife a long time ago.
I think you can even take it one step further and not just provide data to the end user, but actually to tell him what to do with that data. So if, for example, again, I'm having a flight and my device knows I have a flight in 2 hours, so it's not only can say that the flight is being late, it can also remind me to take my earplugs or take my earphones, because he knows that I love to hear music on planes and stuff like that. So it's not only about collecting data, it's about telling you how to use that data. And we use it with our posture device, upright, and you can use it with every other device. And I think that's the next step of where wearables are actually going.
Ricardo, do you deal with the data side?
Not so much, but I mean, some projects we have to parse the data and kind of analyze it and see what we can do with it. But from my side, I would say I'm more focused on the user experience and designing like a beautiful thing to use, you know. And to add to Ori, I don't know if you guys watched Her movie by Spike Jonze. This is something kind of inspired me as as a source of how to use wearables properly, you know.
Build your perfect operating system.
Exactly, yeah. So minimal, well-designed, and things that work and are functional in your life, you know.
So it's a little harder.
It's not about the data.
It's a little
Not
harder
completely.
for you, Phil, to give everyone her operating system because it's more commoditized. How do you try to personalize flight experiences?
Well, our loyalty program does a real good job of catering well to the customers that fly us the most. So 3% of our customers generate 30% of our revenue. So that's where we're focused right now, is giving them the best possible experience. We want to expand that out to everybody, you know, the one-off that flies us once every 5 years. I think that's where we're focused right now. We want to provide a more seamless experience. And again, investing into the actual product, what you see as a product being the plane, that's a huge benefit. So we'll get there.
So on Shark Tank, they had the world's first smart wheel. They reinvented the wheel. 12 to 16-year-old kids. And it was a sensor to detect if your hands were on the wheel or not, if you were texting. So from your perspective, Ricardo, are you dealing with any wearables that have to do with safety and integrating them into the Mercedes line?
Yeah, right now, I mean, safety level, it's hard to tell. But obviously, we look a lot into that kind of integration. I mean, our wheels actually vibrate when you come out of the lane, so that's available in Mercedes right now. But with wearables, unfortunately, we're not yet there. I don't think the wearable is detecting enough to tell the car to adjust to you, you know. I think very, very soon with the autonomous cars, we'll be able to do a lot of that, you know. Potentially take over if a wearable detects you falling asleep, you know. The autonomous engine just kicks in and the car goes on, you know. But we're still 4 or 5 years from that.
Does anyone from the audience have any thoughts about the transportation industry or what they can learn from other areas?
Yeah, y'all represent industries that have really high quality, reliability, and longevity standards. How do you balance that with wearables, which is more aligned to consumer electronics type product dev cycle?
Well, I think from our point of view, it's still the smartphone is still the device that we're focused on, and the wearable is really just an extension. So the wearable should be viewed as something that provides additional data views at different moments, and we always fall back on that smartphone as being the source of record. So if something fails at the wearable, it doesn't impact the customer.
Thank you for letting us leave it on.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, automotive right now, we're looking at like 5-7 years to upgrade the car completely. And obviously, apart from Tesla, as far as I know, no one is doing it well by the cloud. So software takes a while to be upgraded in a car. And we can't keep up with how wearables and apps get upgraded all the time. But very soon, our software in the car will be updated by the cloud. And once you get that, it's pretty much like updating an app, you know? But right now, we're not there yet. Yeah.
Ori, what's your perspective?
So you're looking at the next model to come up with the updates, you know?
Well, in my opinion, I think that the wearable industry is growing up so fast, and the technology is growing up so fast, so it will catch up on the big planes and the cars and all the stuff that you want to integrate it with. So I think, again, in a matter of about 1 year or 2 years, it's going to be there. Maybe now not yet, as Ricardo explained, but I think it's going to go there.
Yeah.
Does anyone else in the audience have any thoughts about transportation or what they can learn from other industries?
There's one over here.
The obvious guy in the front row. I'm over here.
Front row.
Thank you. I have a question for Ricardo and Phil. Do you see, we talk a lot about the consumer experience, whether it's on American Airlines, Virgin Atlantic recently made headlines that some of their utilization of Google Glass for stewardess, or Mercedes-Benz flight attendants, correct? Do you see an application of your actual employees for, whether it's a baggage handler or a car salesperson selling Mercedes-Benz, where you can equip them with wearable technology to capture data so you can leverage those best practices throughout their enterprise, whether it's an all-star stewardess that's planned a flight to, Miami, or it's an all-star salesperson in Saratoga to transfer those best practices throughout your enterprise. Are you open to some type of technology utilizing wearable that will allow you to do that?
Not for stewardess, but for a flight attendant, sure. I'm just got to liven up
Totally.
here.
From our perspective, maintenance, mechanics can be a useful tool. As far as I know, we're not using it, but BMW, I think, introduced that for mechanics. Open the car, Google Glass. From a sales perspective, you can essentially use that as we have iPads or phones, but I don't really see the scenario yet. We need to kind of get the right scenario to implement that. Yeah.
I think glass was great because it started the conversation, at least in the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually look at the applique, it's going to be difficult for the consumer to interact with somebody with a device and not knowing what's being recorded or shared or collected. So we see the opportunity at first to be with the enterprise employee where you don't see them. So in maintenance or baggage handling, operational, there's a big operations center that looks at all these screens and they have all this weather. So I think those are great opportunities that we can learn from. And then I see the first experience with wearables is probably like a Pebble or something that you don't see for the consumer side of it. The psychological aspects of what does that mean when somebody has a wearable and how do I interact with them? I think we don't know what that is yet. It makes us feel uncomfortable.
You should talk to Ori. He's been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah, well,
What about you? And what about Google Glass and Ricardo? How are the internal feelings about using glass within the car setting? Are you staying away from it? Diving
While
into
driving, I don't recommend.
Truly.
Cars,
Text first.
Cars came out with heads-up display in the 80s, late 80s, right? The reason for that is that the field of vision has to be a lot longer than right here, right? Heads-up display works for pilots, works for automotive, it's great, but we need to think that when you're looking at Google Glass and driving, it's not the safest thing to do, It's actually close to be approved in court. Soon you'll have legislation for that. I don't think they will allow you to drive with Google Glass. Yeah. Which makes sense.
Anything else from the audience? Those are great questions before.
Who does my hair? Is that a question?
or stylist.
Yeah.
So on the posture device, what advice would you give these two gentlemen about user experience from the device perspective?
basically to understand that the effects of having a bad posture. I mean, from my point of view, is just being less productive. Yeah, you see straight up, it's a good thing.
I'm self-conscious now.
This is why I'm here, so you can stand up, right? But from my point of view, again, it's basically you're less productive when you're sitting like this. You breathe, I mean, much worse when you breathe like this. So you're less productive, your internal organs and stuff like that. So there's this part, and of course, again, there's the part when you just have back pains. So if I'm going on a 8-hour plane travel, and then after 2 hours, I have to stand up and stretch my back and stuff like that. So if I will be able to strengthen my back muscles and be able to sit for 4 or 5 hours without having back pain. So that's a huge difference for every one of us. So.
I think to add to that, one little gap that I see in wearables right now is like devices that can measure you falling asleep, for example, or you being tired, or you not having full capability to drive a car or an airplane, right? I think there's a huge space there for innovation, and people are not really tapping into that. People are more like focused on how many steps or what you eat daily, calories and so on. But I think there's a huge potential for that, and that's when automotive will take a great tackle on that.
And in the airline space as well, understanding employees' health and their stamina, and if they're too tired, or it's very important. So I think we could have some great benefits there.
Do you currently have any programs in place for the corporate program?
Yeah, we don't. We like to get into that. It's something that we think that understanding fatigue levels would be very important. That data would be very valuable to us.
And Ricardo, how do you balance the safety element of it with the design element of it? Because you have to produce a best-in-class car that's also extremely safe. So from your perspective, is it?
I mean, it's all based in like iteration, prototyping, testing, and finding the errors, basically. Nothing comes out half done, basically. You have to constantly design, iterate, optimize, and so on.
If you need any test drivers, so.
Yeah.
You should use them too.
Yeah.
Testing.
Well, I prefer the cars, but.
So any last thought from you, Phil, on the future of wearables and how important it is to the airline industry?
It's big. We're all in. We're not sure what we're going to get, like a box of chocolates. But did you have a gentleman in the front?
I have a question for you two guys, actually. You have big ideas. These are big ideas about how to interact with the wearables marketplace. How do you turn those ideas into action? How do you engage with either startups or build this stuff and prototype yourself and bring it to market? Is that a 5-year proposition for you, or can you do it in the next 3 months? How do you do this with big companies that have a lot of regulation and safety concerns around them? How do you bring these great ideas into your environments, your corporate environments, and into reality?
So
he had hair before.
No, that was a plant. I paid him early. So like this weekend, we're doing the hackathon with third-party developers. I think the more we can build an ecosystem where others can create cool apps to help us, that's one way, and to give them as much mentoring as possible to get those products into market. In the past, we've always been siloed, and we only create a product. And now the shift is more to collaboration. We can all do this together. So I don't want 6 years. I don't want a year. I think within 6 months, because it's moving so fast. And I need something in market so I can get feedback and test. I can iterate. And agile and iteration has proved over the last 2 years with American to be a huge success for us. And I think we've started to see a culture to expect that. So thank you.
So from our perspective, what we do is that we engage with companies that have an open SDK, APIs, and we test, we try it, and if we have a use case to use it, then we collaborate and move on.
But how about the drowsy one? That was a good one. So how do you make that happen? Because I think it's great. I might even have like a drinks manufacturer to partner with you on that one too.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone has a wearable that detects that, we're happy to work with them. Or at least try and see if it works.
Do you think that wearables could actually improve your product life cycle because they're not built into an aircraft with a 7-year life cycle?
Yeah, we're seeing more. The consumer now is driving electronics, so those planes, you know, they're 3-4 years in the making, and they're already outdated when they come out electronics. So we're going to focus more on what is the consumer bringing with them. They have their whole stack with them. You know, several iPads. You know, I travel with 3 or 4 with the kids. So how do you integrate with the customer's technology? That's key.
What about you and Mercedes with the car hardware?
I mean, we essentially do the same thing. I mean, we try and prototype and find the use case, essentially. I mean, it's what I was answering before.
Anyone else from the audience have any final thoughts?
Easy lobs, come on, easy lobs.
Are you guys interested in looking into like bias sensors and identifying people who are whether consumers sitting in airplanes, for example, or cars, and how that would play into like banks and consumers being able to purchase or buy while they're sitting in seats, or pilots while they're flying, or
Well, I'm not gonna buy anything while I'm driving my car, but was that the question, or?
yeah.
Well, from my experience, if I drive a car, I want to drive a car. I mean, when you get distracted with all the stuff today, we can see it with all the apps and everything. And this is why I think, again, it's going to be a really big process to integrate the two, because just driving, it's something you have to be 100% concentrated at. So I'm not sure we're there yet integrating stuff while driving, but you can maybe say
I
that.
mean, biometrics is huge, right? But we have to look at the use case, you know? I mean, does it make sense to measure your cardio while you're driving a car? I don't think so. But now, does it make sense to measure your cardio if you're racing a Formula One? Maybe, you know? So there's different use cases and different metrics that we can use. I mean, one that we mentioned before, it's like falling asleep or, you know, being tired or anything that even your eyelids closing. Those things can be measured and could be really, really well used in a car, you know, for safety reasons. Apart from that, I mean, people want stuff out of the way and drive it, you know. That's the reality.
I've heard of like use cases where people would hear the news, right? And if it identifies you and I'm interested in one thing versus another driver's interested in another thing, right? The news would be tailored to you as the driver.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, tapping into predictive is a big subject, you know. That's possibly where wearables will help out a lot, you know. Predict what you want, predict where you're going, and then give that input to the car, you know. I think that's a great use case. Yeah.
Do you work with biosensors at all? Do you work with biosensors at all, bioinformation?
No, we already know you're anxious.
I know. Well, I think that transportation and travel commuting is shown as stressful thing for travelers. So I hope that the future of wearables will make it.
It's going to be very Zen-like. It's going to be peaceful. It's going to be beautiful. All because of wearables and this conference.
And all because of you three. So thank you very much. And I think we'll wrap up from here. So thank you, Carlos. Thank you for your attention all day and your great participation. I think there's a panel upstairs which is something to the tune of Bop Your Head.